Brothers and sisters, bet you don't know where anybody's at. Time was a bust, you thought you'd better be tough. Nobody gets past the trembling wire. And all eyes on you now, on you. We're all holding our breath. Still holding our breath. We all break a little. We all break a little. We all break a little when we fall, and everybody keeps saying, get up, get up.
Hey, Wonderland Hero Band. We're back. We're back in the more external live-facing sort of environment, which I'm very excited about. So welcome to Regenerative Mental Health. This is the kind of Beyond Burnout series. So we're going to really dig into some mental health stuff and have some really inspiring and joyful and beautiful conversations, and maybe a little bit of dark in here too. as my phone rings and reinforces the goodness of what we're here to do. All right, so actually we're gonna do a icebreaker a little bit differently today. We're just gonna dig in, and given the collective kind of passionate interest in the immersive sustainability-ness of us all here, we're gonna talk about this opening song. What what are your thoughts on the opening tune, and what did you hear, feel, think about? And we'll just kind of break the ice for a few minutes. Who would like to kick us off? Sam, you're unmuted, I see. So
I was just gonna have a think about it actually for the moment, if that's okay,
okay,
just to
yep,
reflect.
sure. Paul, yeah.
um, I didn't understand all the words, but I did sort of clue into the piece where the woman was on the ball and a guy was standing there, and the song was kind of going into, or we all break at some point.
Mhm.
Because I think that, we do all sort of break at some point. We all have our down moments where we're depressed or lonely or whatever it may be, and have dark thoughts. So yeah, so I was sort of interested in that particular moment in the piece.
And the line too, he kind of keeps repeating is we all break a little.
Yeah,
We all break a
exactly.
little, right? And I think that really touches on the change maker. Like we don't really like crumble, right? At least not very often. We break a little and then we try to rebuild and keep going, right? Yeah, I love it.
Exactly.
Kirpa, you're unmuted. Hey, DLF, what's up?
Yes, hi everyone. Well, I had the pleasure of seeing this with you before Chance,
Yeah, we
so
did.
I really just love the visuals of this. It's very moving, and you just feel like, you're watching this scene of so many things happening at once. Um, it's just kind of like life, observing life as it is.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Observing life as it is. Interesting. Okay. Anybody else want to jump in?
I was focused on the rhythm of the music and kind of the instruments themselves, and I felt like they too were they did a good they were a good representation of the balance of the mental health. I also felt like it could be climbing up a hill, which is what sometimes, especially when you're burnt out, it can feel like that sometimes. But it's also peaceful at the same time. You could also see it as like peaceful
Hmm.
and taking your time as well. Yeah.
Hmm. Nice. All right, Curiosity, you've had your think.
Had to think.
Love
No,
your
really,
background,
really
by the way. We're
was
digging that.
just trying something a bit more colourful. Yeah, no, what everyone's building on what everyone's been saying, really. I think two things come to my mind. My best mate always says to me, we can let go of the mask for a little bit. So I thought maybe the metaphor of the circus was interesting, of trying to put on a show. And then the other one was that struck me was the persistent character on the tightrope and the balancing act that everyone has to do. So
Hmm.
they're my two parts to add into what everyone else has said. Nice start.
Yeah, that flows in nicely with what I was gonna kind of share to kind of pivot us forward is, I think what I see in that is, it's called the fall, right? And we're all bound to fall. My sustainability beacon is every, shadow has a silver lining. So there's a ton about that song that speaks to me. But the thing that really gets me is that like wanting to like rise up to solve human challenges, to be heroic a bit, right? It can feel kind of like a high wire act. And sometimes you can kind of look a bit like a fool, looking silly, like, who are you to think you can like change any of this stuff, right? You stand up against the machine, how dare you? And so you can feel kind of clownish a little bit, right? But as the song also says, um, go on, get up, because we will. We'll always get up, and I appreciate that a great deal. So cool. All right. Well, we're going to go to a very, very exciting moment. So I would say kind of almost a drum roll moment because the brightness has created her first ritual. So we're going to go take a look. This is a bit of a carryover from the first series where she created Ah. The presencing ritual, which is a ritual to practice the time ticks and powerful patience elements of our regenerative philosophy. This is ways to let go of the past and future, to be in the present moment, to embrace it all and just breathe. If your mind wanders, gaze at a lit candle for 1 minute. Accept any thoughts and feelings that arise, then release them as you blow the flame out. Sabrina, tell us more, react, respond, thoughts, thank you, all of the things.
I mean, I love it. It definitely represents what I feel when I meditate and when I'm bringing myself back in the present. So to be able to share that and contribute that to the group of us, it's an honor. So yeah, thank you for allowing me to do that.
So awesome. Well, it'll go out to Wonderland, and we may just have you take us through a little bit of a presencing ritual at some point along the way, if you would be so bold. So
I'd be up for that, definitely.
yeah, sweet. You know what? Should we do it right now? Do you wanna ground us a little bit? Do you feel compelled or prepared to do
Sure.
it? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. So if everyone, you can keep your eyes open or you can close them if you feel more comfortable. Just take a minute and focus, bring your attention to your breath. My phone buzzes as I say that. But yeah, bring your attention back to your breath. Just observe it. Be open with what arises. If any thoughts come up, that's okay. Just observe them and let them go. Like a bubble, let it arise and then disappear. And just focus on your breathing for a minute, and we'll do that just for a minute. Brilliant. So if you want to, when you're ready, open your eyes and yeah, come back to the room and be in the present moment again.
You have a voice for this. Really calming. I like it. I also like creepily watching Paul and Sam with their eyes closed, just at peace. It's so nice. It's so nice.
And that was yeah, that was really great. I'm so open to do that whenever. We could do that every session.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And maybe we can play with the candle a bit too. I have some ways we could do that too if we wanted to try some different things. So nice. Or bring our own candles, perhaps even.
Can I add on to what Nina just did?
Riff it, Paul. Let's go.
By reading a poem.
Yeah. Yes.
So
yes.
There's a poem that I wrote in Scotland. How to start each day with the world on fire, to undo the damage, start anew. Sit quietly, feet planted firmly, spine reaching upward. Breathe. Watch the thoughts come and go, become friends with yourself again. Breathe. Or plunge into the cold, cold sea. Shout loudly. Shout to put the fire out. Woo! Shout the rage. Shout the outrage. Shock the lungs alive. Breathe or not. lose all thought but the pain and the ecstasy of the cold, the sea soft as silk. What do you feel, curious traveler? What will you do to undo the damage in the world, to undo the damage in your soul? Truth be told, this meandering life is imbued with hidden meanings, waiting to be discovered when we seek them out. The heart keeps beating. The breath is fresh with air. Is it the breath or the heart that goes last? Shall I come again and start anew, dear friend?
And the designer's wolf finds himself at the sea and goes, "Oh, dude, yes." Oh, Paul, the provocateur laying down some poetry. Oh my goodness.
It's got to be the best start. It's one of these sessions, I think. Well done, both.
Hmm.
Well done all. Came with the video as well and the song chants. So well done. That's yeah.
That is the we that is this Wonderland hero band at our best. And let's keep it rolling.
Just to give you a slight context, our
Yeah.
morning ritual when we're doing our writing retreat in Scotland is to do 20 minutes of meditation and then go jump into the cold, cold ocean.
That's incredible. When do you go to Scotland then, Paul? Is that
in September?
wow? I bet that is cold, to be fair. Nice.
Oh,
Wow, what a beautiful place though as well to do those sorts of things.
yeah, indeed.
That's a great one.
Okay.
Well,
Where there's a written chance, I'd love to read them again, if possible.
yeah. So Paul would love to actually place your poetry into like a provocateur kind of scroll, so to speak, or something. I don't know. You and I can collaborate on what the creative application of that looks like. But if you're into it, we could put it together and then share it with the group. That'd be really cool, actually.
Yeah,
I've been wanting to do that
sure.
for a long time, friend. I'm so excited about this.
Absolutely.
Cool. Okay. Well, this is awesome because I am actually going to do a bit of a performance myself for you all. Tell you a story that I've lived the last 3 or 4 years and have told in bits and pieces and such, but feel at the end of a healing journey, or at least far enough along in the healing journey that I understand just how special these last 4 years have been, and how much mental health for change makers especially means to me. I was also speaking at a conference in Louisville the last couple of days, and so I've got the performance presentation sort of juices flowing a little bit. But I want to share this with you because this matters to me a lot, like a lot. And I want to share that with this group because my gratitude for this collection of people runs very, very deep. And I feel ready to almost kind of tell my story in a way that I haven't yet. And you all have a hand in that. Kirpa, Paul, Sam for a long time, Ella for a bit of time now, and Sabrina certainly as just a wonderful new friend and supporter of what we're doing, and want to support what she's doing too, because the creativity stuff is just so important. So with that, sit back, enjoy a bit of a long story, but then it's going to carry us into an open discussion for the rest of the ride. So thank you for being willing to sit and listen. I'm forcing you to do it, so I don't know if you're willing, but here we go. Oh, you can't see my script. Wow, Kirpa, the Zoom struggles are forever. It's continuously. Just my goodness. All right, here we go. So the link between change making and our understanding of our mental health, especially for me, has proven to be a bit infinite. It has carried me into some of the most heartfelt and impactful places in my life, which was my time at the Salt Palace Convention Center, doing zero waste and sustainability, climate action things for them. It has pushed me to the brink of burnout on the path to corporate leadership. Been on that Salt Palace path as well. And during that time, I came to understand that my chronic stomach issues were coming from what I would also find out is a diagnosed stress-induced anxiety condition. Thank you, therapy, for that. And thank you, doing stressful work, for what came from that. I came to also realize that chronic back pain was being made worse by overworking. No duh, right? And then 2020 came after 4 years of doing some of the most meaningful work of my life, making the most impact I've ever made and still to this day have made. And I found out a week after we started working from home during COVID that my wife was pregnant. And I went kind of into Shadowland, not in a despair, discouragement sort of way, but it was definitely exploring the depths of what things look like. What was bringing a kid into this world going to be like? What if I lost my job? What if, what if, what if? Well, then George Floyd was murdered, and I realized I'm a part of the problem. During the pandemic, we got to tuck away in our little condo in the mountains and hide somewhat safe, protected from everything that was going on. And I thought, how can I learn and teach my kid to avoid the same mistakes that I have through my ignorance over time? And so my wife says to me at one point, you need to go to the woods, because probably making her a bit crazy. And she knew that I needed to think about some things. So I went into the Uinta wilderness of Utah. And she she calls it a bit of a vision quest, but I'm probably too like privileged white guy for that to not be appropriation. So something similar, but maybe not quite that. And after a day of hiking, hanging out with some singing frogs at a pond, and two old hikers actually catching me doing yoga nearly naked, and asking me if I was living out in the woods. And no, I'm not joking about that. That is a real thing that happened. Um, and after just a lovely day, I was in my hammock, and it was raining a little bit. And that gentle rain, it's kind of that rain that feels cleansing and calming, not just pissing it down, as our friends over in Europe would say. Sam, thank you for teaching me that wonderful term. Um, and I got into a fairly deep meditation. And after a while, my eyes drift open, and then they widen because I see this. A thunder sunset. Because I was privy to the most powerful strikes of lightning in the distance. And that power and this visual, a kind of a question popped into my head. What is it that I need to be for my family right now? And I realized, like, wow, the world's pretty messed up. Like, I need to be kind of like a hero almost. And then another question came. What does the world need right now? The world needs heroes too. And so I sat with those questions for the rest of that night, sleeping in my car. But I was kind of restless. And when I woke up, I went for a walk back to Frog Pond. And as I sat there, I realized I need a way to inspire myself to be what my family needs, to be that hero for them. And that's where the alter ego was born. And as I drove home, I started thinking about this different way of being. I'm about to become a dad. I want to be my best self so that my kids don't have to face the same generational trauma that I did, experience the same bullying as a kid the way I did, or work themselves to the brink of starvation and exhaustion. Because at one point I was starving to death. I lost like 20 pounds because I was having a hard time eating. My body was telling me, like, you're pushing too hard. And at first, I thought that the best version of myself was the route to whatever it was I was seeking. And come to find out later, even just here over the last months, it was being able to actually return home to myself, to actually be myself. That was the key to all of this. That is what the alter ego is. That's the sustainable identity that we should be living with. And as I drove home, as I drove kind of the magical Mirror Lake Highway out of the Uintas, I drew nearer to the machine. I was heading back to the machine. But the thunder sunset kept kind of coming back to me. It was almost like watching me drive. And I realized that you know what, this alter ego needs a home. It needs a place to exist, a hideaway, a training ground, something. And that's when then the Veraverse was born. And as my physical being was driving a car back into the machine, my soul and spirit were soaring on the viridescent mothership back to a place called the Veraverse, a place that I'd almost kind of existed for my entire childhood, but never really realized it. And then weeks before I became a dad, I sought advice from a mentor, one that could likely help me become the corporate leader that I was supposedly destined to become, per my status quo path. This person told me, as I opened up about my fears of bringing a kid into a world of climate change, racial injustice, pandemic, I was told that I thought that I was right about everything, that I was the one that was broken. And there's a little bit of truth to that. Maybe I was a bit broken. That made it all the more important for me to do something new. Then I became a dad. My son Milo was born, and it was amazing, more than you can ever expect it to be. And though I kind of already suspected I was leaving my job to pursue my alter life, actually, it was my wife that knew before even I did. She told me, "You're going to quit your job, aren't you?" I was like, "Oh, no, not anytime soon, not yet." Like, she's like, "Uh-huh." But Milo came along and solidified that. I wasn't going back, not really. I was going to keep walking into those woods a bit, heading into the Veraverse, at least for a little while. But then 2021 came and the fighting over the masks got worse. We fought over the outcome of the US presidential election. We fought over everything, every single thing. And I went back into Shadowland. This time it was really heavy, darker than it had ever been, even throughout my physical illnesses, where I was in and out of the hospital trying to figure out what was going on. In the summer of 2021, less than a year after my son was born, I was feeling suicidal. And I'm not kidding. I never tried it, and I wasn't going to, but I needed something different. I needed something more. I needed to find healing quickly. And so I got back on a motorcycle for the first time in like a decade and rode 1,000+ miles alone through my home state of Montana and into Wyoming a bit, through Yellowstone. I drove through wildfires and smoking forests. That was emotional and uncomfortable. I was pretty much in smoke the whole time, actually. So a world of climate change was bearing down on me that whole way. I rode over 10,000-foot peaks. I rode fast. Oh yeah, I rode fast. And I also rode really slow and just enjoyed the scenery. The view on a motorcycle is untouchable to what a car is. Car has all kinds of stuff in your way. All you got is your eyes and the road and a helmet. You wear a helmet. But it's amazing. I plunged into the rivers of Yellowstone. I slept amidst grizzlies. And I even went to a place that made me feel my mortality. Not so far from where my mom was born. This place, I felt like if I walked out into those woods, I was going to die. It was the craziest, strangest thing I've ever experienced. And I don't know if it was a grizzly was going to get me. I don't know if I was going to slip and fall off of one of those rocks. I don't think I was going to be the one to do it, but it just felt this way. And there was something about that that stuck with me. And I realized that, funny enough, walking out into that nature was kind of becoming a bit of an analogy for going further along the path that I'd been trained to as a young, privileged, white dude, educated corporate leader. And I decided that that wasn't for me. I could not do that. I decided that in 2020, and I strengthened it in 2021. And there's a whole lot more that comes after that till now. But what it is rooted in is my ability to live as my alter ego, alter to the status quo that shaped so much of what I had become. Not a terrible person, not a bad person, a good person doing good work, but missing some things for myself. And even, yes, the sustainability machine was driving me into the ground. Race against climate change, martyr ourselves, as change makers for the mistakes of human past. No, no more. Couldn't do it anymore. So you fast forward to today. Today, I spend more time in nature than I ever have before, and that's saying a lot from somebody who grew up in the mountains of Montana on a dirt bike riding out into the vast wilderness. I spend more time with my kids than I could ever hope to, my wife, and myself. I spend more time doing the things that I love than I could have ever thought possible. My stomach is completely healed. Completely. I can eat almost anything that I want to. And I found a set of healers who helped me find the source of my chronic back pain, a neck injury in high school basketball. And I'm now growing mentally and physically stronger with every workout, more than ever before, every cold plunge ritual, every hike. And I think I can get back my back to 95%, which means I'll be able to carry a pretty decent load as a change maker. And I wouldn't want to heal it all the way, I don't think, because pain is a bit of an old friend and a surefiring of when things are becoming too much. So I returned home to Montana because I needed to go home. And it's a place I never thought I could live again when I left to escape my generational trauma specifically. And I became a dad in the state where my dad was a pretty good dad. My mom is a pretty good mom. I get to do work that I love. I care more about sustainability than ever, but also less. I live proudly with hypersensitivity, intense empathy, and a stress-induced anxiety condition. Guess what? Sustainability is really freaking stressful, but I can do it better than ever because turns out healing the worst of my mental health was all about returning home to myself and my Montana. The alter ego, the designer, is my hero, the hero that I needed, which has made me the hero my family needs as well. But guess what? Here's the thing. I'm not the hero the world needs. There's been plenty of that throughout history, too much of that. You are sitting here in this room with me because we are good people doing good things that matter a great deal, and we care. And that caring comes at a cost. But collectively, we can turn that cost into a prosperous way forward for change makers. And as a result, because we're doing it for really good reasons, anybody and everybody, because there is a change maker within all of us. And for me, it is the alter ego that helped me understand the balanced system of all of that. So let your journey and your change making story continue. And we open it up to talk about our mental health and our sustainability alter egos a little bit. They'll be there. They'll be hanging out, supporting, giving you courage. Oh yeah, one thing. I want to break the tension a little bit with all that and bring us back from the past. I was pretty absolute about pie being significantly better than cake. And I realized that some people like cake too. So breaking out of my conversational pie container, pie and cake, they're both good. And into the breakout we go. So you can respond to any of that should you wish, ask me questions and things, but I am more interested in hearing from all of you now, given the length of that story. Here is our breakout discussion. So who would like to break the tension and the ice from that very heavy story?
I'd love to just say thank you so much, Chance, for sharing with us. It really means a lot to have this community and to learn from your journey. Um, can you put up the slide again?
Yeah, I'm
Sorry.
gonna put it in the chat too. Yeah, let me
But
reset
yeah,
myself
just
here.
really appreciate you being vulnerable with us and sharing um, about your journey and supporting others like myself on my journey. But to sort of go to the breakout room questions, what is my relationship between mental health and change making for myself? Well, you can't really fill up other people's cup until you have yours filled. So I've been kind of dealing with this, struggling with my physical health as well over the last few years, and kind of just trying to figure out what balance really means for me. Um, Mental health, you know, as change makers, I feel like we feel everything that's happening in the world, and we kind of have that weight on our shoulders, trying to make sure that we're there for other people in our community, showing up in the best way that we can. But being a change maker, kind of similar to yourself, I found so much peace in kind of embracing my alter ego in some of the darkest times of my life. When I sat and thought about, you know, the DLF and the strides that I've made in the Veraverse, it's given me hope to keep kind of pushing forward. I still struggle with my health. I have a very weakened immune system, and I deal with a few issues like PCOS, a few mental health issues as well. But I'm taking the steps forward to kind of align myself with nature, more meditation, more outdoor time, being a little bit more selfish than selfless, and focusing on myself so I'm able to sort of support my family, my friends, and my loved ones. And I think this is a like continuous journey. I don't think I will ever perfect it, but I know that me thinking about these things, talking it out loud, being here in this space is progress.
So I agree. You'll never perfect it. There's no such thing. We need to stop being perfectionists, right? But I do think you'll become a master. You're already heading that direction, my friend.
Thank
Questions,
you.
thoughts from Kirpa's share, or a desire to share yourself?
If I'd just jump in quickly to echo what Kirpa said about you sharing yours, but then also to say thank you to Kirpa as well for sharing what you're going through as well, and to hear that story. I think it's so important to be selfish, actually, which is the contradiction, isn't it? And I love that cup analogy. So yeah, I hope good luck to everything you're doing there, and really interesting. Thank you for sharing. I'll have a think about this breakout though, Chance, but just wanted to quickly jump in and echo those points.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, I loved hearing your story, Chance, of course. You know, I think in a lot of ways, as we've discovered over the last couple of years, you and I have a lot in common, despite the fact that we're so different in age and generation.
Yeah, kindred spirits.
And yeah, you know, I think that I can really identify with kind of where you were at, you know, at the Salt Palace, which it's so funny that my partner Karen is actually there right now at a conference. So interesting. um, and, you know, having gone through a lot of that myself, you know, working on sustainability stuff, going through, you know, a lot of crises when I was president of the Green Meeting Industry Council and watching that fall apart and dissolve into nothingness, somewhat on my watch. You know, I think it's so interesting that for me, I think, you know, and you can tell me whether this is right or not. I think that I sort of present myself to the world as a fairly stable, kind of well-adjusted, sort of even-keeled person. But underneath all of that, you know, there are some dark places that I go to a lot. And like you, over the years, I've had various times where it's like, I should just fucking kill myself because I don't know that anybody would miss me. And, you know, I have just had it. I'm done. I'm just like so done with what I'm doing. And so, yeah, so I think that that's a mental struggle that a lot of people go through, that I've gone through. You know, I do have some days where, you know, I just go deep into these dark, depressive places, and it takes a lot to get out of it. And I don't know that I have a great formula for even for how I get out of it, other than to just get up and start doing stuff. And I've been talking to a few people lately about all of the sustainability stuff and how I'm just like sick of fucking talking about it. It's like it's time for people to just start doing stuff instead of talking about it all the time. And I know that you went and just talked at WEC, but I love the fact that you brought the whole sustainability alter ego piece into it. So
I built
So I don't
some
know.
alter egos for some people at the airport. It was awesome.
Excellent. So yeah, so I don't know that I have a whole lot more to say just right this moment about it, just to kind of like, add on to what you were saying and identify with your story, and that feeling of a need to escape sometimes and just be off by yourself and try and think about this stuff and
Yeah.
delve into like, how am I actually feeling right this moment, and what do I need to do like right now to get out of whatever space I'm in if it's a dark place. So yeah, so kudos to your story.
So I just want to have everybody imagine that there is some heroic character out there, shadow walking through its life, and it goes every single place it possibly can to do good, to bring good, right? Trying to bring the inner light that's inside of it to reality, because people can't feel it, can't see it. It's not there enough. I care about a sustainability thing, a sustainable humanity. We have all this amazing potential. This character, this thing does this for its entire life, and it comes up feeling like it's not done enough. It's tried every single day, yet it still feels like I haven't done enough. I can't do enough. I can't get people to see. I can't get them to understand. At the end of that character's life, throughout that character's life, don't you think that it's pretty fair for it to go, maybe I should just fucking kill myself? Like, maybe maybe it's just impossible. Isn't that reasonable? That's a pretty fair thing to feel, right? To do it is a different story potentially, but it's something that's reasonable to feel. And I think we get afraid of having these conversations in this way. And I'm so grateful to you, Paul, for just bam, because it's how people feel. And they don't feel like they can actually say it. They don't feel like they can be that way. Just because they feel that way doesn't mean they're going to do it. It's like we're afraid of these people, like they're going to harm us. And if we care about them, sure, maybe a little bit, you can understand some of that. But I'm so grateful for you to just come in hot like that, because it's totally reasonable. This is hard work. This is hard stuff. And humans are still trying to figure it out, still trying to find our way. And we're still incredibly cruel. Look at the wars. Look at what's going on. So thank you for being willing to do that, because I think it's so helpful to those that feel that way, but don't ever get an opportunity to just say it and be caught, be listened to, be heard, not be judged, not be like, oh God, oh, you care too much. Get away from me. No.
Well, that's what I love about this group too, is that I feel like over the last however many weeks we've been doing this, we've developed a certain amount of trust and ability to be vulnerable with each other. And so I'm not sure I could have said all of that in front of a bunch of other people that I didn't know and that I didn't trust with
Sure.
those emotions.
And yeah, imagine we had a few new people RSVP to this session or to the series. I don't know what part of the sessions there, but I know like on the Wonder event, there was a new person. I actually reached out to them and said, thanks for RSVPing and looking forward to having you. And they're not here. Yeah, I wonder if they were here, would you have done that? Right. And it makes me actually glad they didn't show up, which is a weird thing to say as we look to grow these groups. But I think, Sam, you know what I'm talking about, right? It's, it's a delicate thing, a delicate mix of things. But the most important thing we can do, I think, is strengthen the foundational level of this, because as we get that stronger and stronger, that human mycelium will start to expand and grow. And the trust will continue to hold.
Sabrina wanted to share anything there. We all get aware of each other's actions, don't we now?
Yeah. I totally agree with all of that, and thank you all for being like sharing your feelings and being vulnerable, which is not an easy thing to do, but I recognize the importance of it. I felt like most of my life I've had mental health struggles, especially with anxiety, and now like coming out of that, one thing that kind of helped me which was a turning break, which is in 2020, I wrote a poetry book and I shared it with my friends and family. I self-published it and I shared it with my friends and family. And what I found very interesting is most of them came back. And that poetry book was about mental health. And I was very vulnerable with that, sharing my feelings. And not one person, when I shared that, not one person came back and didn't say, oh, I don't understand, I don't know how that feels. Like most of them said, oh, I felt that before. I felt that. I have definitely felt that. And, or at least with like some poems being like, oh yes, no, I've gone through that. And then I was like, I was amazed by seeing how much that book resonated with people, because I know that made me feel better in that when you're in the dark place or in the shadow, it can feel very lonely, and it can feel like you're the only person in the world who feels like that. And then, but by sharing that book, I was able to not only have like other people like talk about my feelings with other people and with other friends and family. It was nice knowing that they felt that way too, because then we could kind of build a change together, or at least talk about it together instead of just being alone in the shadows, kind of face our fears together, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I guess also with what tools help me find success with that. I mean, the meditation, the also talking about it, but also I think even though I have to trust, I mean, the fact that there are other change makers like me, that helps me have hope in the world and trust that even if I feel like everything's like falling apart or everything's not going so well, I'm like, I have hope for a future that does. I trust, and I even say it to myself even when I don't believe it. I say those affirmations of everything's working out, unless somehow, I may not be able to see it, but I have to trust that it is, Yeah.
Wow. I'm so grateful that you just shared all of that. And congratulations on the book and the poetry. And is this something that is for sale or can be acquired or read or no? To
I didn't know about marketing back when I
Okay.
published it, so
Yeah.
it's not really being able to be found. But I am posting on LinkedIn, and I want to post on Wonder Poems, and I can post it also on the Wonder chat.
Yeah.
And share it there also.
I would absolutely love to read that.
Please do. Please
Yeah.
do.
If you're doing it, then that says so much about you're becoming your alter ego, right? Like you're taking it out into the world with courage and pride. And I'm sure so much of that has to do with the reaction that you got from others. And I think that's the thing too, is we have all these perceptions. This is kind of what we call the machine mind, that like, oh, people are going to judge us or whatever. So much that's us judging us. It's not a real narrative. And sometimes certainly it's there and real, but humans are fundamentally good. Isn't that what change makers always say? And I think especially when they love, that tends to be the case. It's awesome. You're also inspiring me too. I'm holding you accountable. You share first, and then I'm going to share one of the first comics that I ever published that was about my mental health a bit, and it was published in like 2021-ish when I was struggling from a planet called Friction, a planet of fire and ice. So yeah, very cool. Okay, who's next? Sam, are you feeling ready to share your answers to the
Well,
question?
I'm wondering whether, I think there's been so many profound responses to that I'm enjoying just sitting with those thoughts. And so I wondered if you'd mind me kind of maybe continuing for us to swirl in this area, to like ask where I'm so interested in where you all like become so conscientious and then use a device, I suppose, to reconcile the thoughts you're having. Typically, it feels like poetry is coming out a lot here, like how Paul took us forwards. Sabrina, you've written a lot, it sounds like, to try and make sense of those thoughts. And I just interested, if you wouldn't mind me asking that question, Chance, of course I can always share as well. But I think there's been such profound conversation already. I'd love to just dive a bit deeper into that thought process.
Can you ask the question one more time?
Yeah, so with how conscientious you all are, like you're all very aware of these feelings, but trying to use maybe poetry as the device to communicate. Like you've used comic books, Chance, and obviously we watched the song at the beginning. Just where do you both lean, where do you all lean into that art as an important tool for communicating those issues? Like what drives you to choose those channels of art form? Your comics, there's poetry.
Yep. I'm happy to answer the question first because I know my answer very quickly.
Yeah, thanks, Chance.
Some of it's an innate thing. I suppose potentially a talent. I in the darkest places, that's when I become the most creative. And so it kind of makes sense that in the darkest of times, mixed with the most beautiful of times of becoming a parent and all that, I became inspired to create the most artistic thing I've ever done, which is this Veraverse thing, right? But specifically writing for me was something that I always wanted to be a writer and I didn't actually really know it because it didn't feel like it fit my path or narrative exactly. And some of that's just on me. I wish I had seen it and really noticed, but I do now. And so who cares really? For me, the ability to write is I can really like write what I actually feel. And there's actually man, why I need to think about it. But the brightness has kind of given me some courage. There was one piece of writing that I performed for Carla, the researcher, a ways back, and she like audibly like clapped and was so like, because she's like, oh my God, you just said everything that I feel like I can't, right? Or you said everything that I feel every day or often or whatever. And it's dark. It's really dark. I may be willing to share it with a small group like this because it's intense. But I think that there's such a benefit and I think art, that's why art is often radical and crazy and weird and different and things, right? Because it gives us a way to create things that visualize and story tell and things that we may not feel comfortable just doing as our normal everyday self, I suppose. But for me, it's a bit of an innate thing. Like when I get sick too, when I'm sick, I sometimes, that's what I do is I do art I don't know why. So I need to think about that more, but I think it's a really good coping mechanism. And and it also, one more thing too, is I think about like every silver lining and for every shadow having a silver lining, is it's a way to turn feeling shitty into something beautiful too.
Yeah, like that. So you use it as a
Yeah.
create.
Mhm.
Yeah, thanks, Sabrina.
Yeah, just to kind of, at least for me, I totally agree with what Chance was saying. I totally resonate with that too. At least for me, I guess I kind of turn to poetry and writing because for me, that's how it made sense of, that's how I made sense on how I'm feeling. Sometimes it's a lot when you're feeling so many emotions. And it was going through poetry, being like, what is this feeling? And then kind of, when I put it into words, then it kind of like, I kind of took the power away from the feeling by kind of being like labeling it in a way, and giving it an emotion and being like, oh, okay, that's where I'm feeling, and then kind of delving into that more and being like, oh, where is this coming from? That's what helped me kind of make sense of my emotions, if that makes sense. Yeah. Just wanted to add that. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I think poetry, I've loved poetry ever since I was a kid. I've always like read poetry, and it's like been one of my primary literature things is reading poetry and doing poetry. And it's so funny. It's like I wrote a bunch of poetry when I was in college, and then I kind of abandoned it, and I found a bunch of it some years later and read it, and it was all crap, and I threw it all away. And I kind of just destroyed it all. And then I picked it up again at some point. For me, poetry is kind of like a way to just get present. I feel like, poetry is sort of an observant kind of thing. Like, I might be in a situation where I'm observing something and it evokes an emotion or a feeling or just a way of like looking at the world in a different way for me. And so I'll use poetry sometimes in that way to just be present with where I am right then and there and be able to like sit, oftentimes poems like just come to me like that. I don't really stress over them. I don't take a long time to write them. It might take me 5 minutes and I'll write a poem, and I'll look at it later and say, yeah, I don't think I would really change this. I think it's okay. So I use it a lot in terms of just being present with where I am. I tend to write more when I'm not at home. When I'm out traveling around the world, for some reason, I write more poetry when I'm traveling. So, but yeah, it's an art form. It's an art form for me for sure in terms of being able to express things that I'm seeing, things that I'm feeling, things that I'm doing, all of those kinds of things.
Kirpa?
Paul, I just wanted to say you inspired me to write about today, which is World Biodiversity Day. So if I could just read what I wrote, I'd
Read
love to
it.
share this poem. In the forests deep and oceans wide, in valleys green and mountains high, a tapestry of life abides, a world where countless wonders lie. From tiniest ants to ancient trees, from soaring birds to buzzing bees, each plays a part, a role so grand, the nature's intricate command. The coral reefs beneath the waves, the Arctic chills, the deserts blaze, in every climate, in every space, biodiversity finds its place. So that was just something I put together because I was like, wow, creativity is
It's
flowing.
just something I put together. Let me just like brush off my shoulders. I just threw that little bit ditty together. I love that.
So thank you. And I'm so happy I got to spend this, celebrate Biodiversity Day with all of you guys today. Very, very special.
DLF in the house. Yes.
What an inspired session. Wow.
So yeah, so kind of flagging time. We have 2 minutes left. We're in a nice place, both to keep going and to, I guess, to stop. I don't know. So what would we like to do? Would we like to buy a few more minutes? I do have a couple of questions for Sam, actually, and a couple of resources I'd love to share. So is everybody okay to go for a couple more? Or anybody have a hard stop? Feeling
We're good for a couple.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we won't go long, but trying to decide which way I want to go. I think I'll leave that. Yeah, let's lean more into the creative first. So one of the things that Paul said, and then I just kind of heard it come out through Kirpa's voice and words, is that I really love is you kind of talked about how like poetry was a thing when you were younger, right? And it made me kind of think, reminded me a bit that I used to really love to write short stories when I was in high school. I took a creative writing class in high school, and I wrote a really cool story about like a race, where it was like a marathon race, and some of it was on motorcycles with like weapons, and others were running, and some were hiking, and so it was a whole crazy thing. it's like one of the things I was most proud of as a youth, and I kind of forgot about that as I got into college and all that stuff. And so one of the questions I have for you, Sam, is what is something like from childhood that you really used to enjoy doing that maybe you've forgotten or you don't get to do as much as you would like to? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, I think maybe my line of questioning, I suppose. I used to be my whole childhood, I think I was probably the best skill I had was around the creative element, I suppose. So elocution, drama, poetry, creative writing, and
Right.
do less of that. And so why I was so keen to hear where you all come from is probably a little bit selfish of me in some ways, but also I didn't think I could add anything. I
Be
truly didn't.
selfish. Yes, do
I
it.
didn't feel I could add anything, but really it was to understand and probably reconnect with you all, because I do feel like Paul said, I've been connecting deeper with you all every week, and I love that. And I think in this this circus, trying to use the metaphors from before,
Hey.
the machine, etc. It's emotional to hear you all talk about it, and I think it brings back that childhood feeling towards a way of communicating. So that definitely creative writing, storytelling, yeah, poetry. 100. I'd love to get involved in this poetry thing, big time. Think I might try and find some time over I'm going away for a couple of days, so
You're doing it.
maybe.
You got there. You said you needed a break. You knew that
Yeah.
it needed to happen. So yes. All right, Paul, we got talk, man. We need like a poetry
said.
place in the Viraverse. Is it the poetry realm? Maybe. I don't know. We'll talk about it.
Maybe.
We'll co-create it a little bit. If anybody has any immediate ideas, throw it in the chat or jump in. So yeah, you're a good writer, Sam, and that's so cool. It's cool to hear too that the creative component has kind of touched you, or touched you as a kid, and now it's like reigniting, and you can see it in your background right now. I love that. I don't know what it is about that. I see Winter Peaks in that a bit too, my friend.
Mm.
That's
Mhm.
cool, and
Mhm.
so that's really special. Okay, well, are we willing to nudge Sam and say, write a poem and come back and share it with us?
Well, many as you all have, I feel obliged. That's it, okay.
Yes. Okay, looking forward
Have a
to it.
look.
Okay. Well, next week is great, but the week or after the next one is great too. So when you feel ready, you tell us and we'll be ready to go.
Thanks, everyone.
Um, all right, one more question for you, and then we'll start working towards a close, I think. Right now, in what you do, where do you think you get to be the most creative?
By the way, that's the group, right?
No, it's to you. Yeah,
To me.
to you. Yeah.
Okay.
We're hanging out in
Sorry.
Curiosity World right now, for
Oh,
sure.
okay. Sorry. Cool. I'm keeping everyone now then. It most creative. Well, I suppose the application, we've had a lot of debate internally about, and at the boardroom, about the experience isn't what I imagined. There's function, there's practicality, there's features, there's tooling, but it's not the story that we wanted to tell. So right now I'm moving way more into working very closely with a user experience designer to try, and we're writing a story about what we hope you all experience, and we're looking at constantly reinventing the way in which you feel when using Wonder, and the things and how the functionality comes together to tell a story rather than the practicality of it, which I still don't think is great either. So that's my first application of any kind of creativity, which hopefully supports more people. In a personal setting, probably why I feel most disconnected is I don't do a lot of that. So looking forward to the poetry. Even thought about painting. Would love to take, I think I'd love to take up that as well. But yeah, I think I'm a bit exhausted at the minute with regards to where my creative outlets are, and I need to bring those back in professionally, personally. It's what drives me. So
Nice.
why I
Sounds like a crossing of a bridge a bit from,
Mm,
as we would say, from shadow to silver potentially. You can kind of,
yeah, watch this space. Let's see. But you've all inspired me today. I mean, I'm grateful just to listen I'd love to listen to the recording again.
This one's pretty deep. That's pretty deep. Ooh.
If you don't mind, yeah, I just feel so connected to it. Like you're all over the world, but you're in my living room, kind of thing.
Does anybody else feel the same way? I sure do.
So,
I
just
do.
appreciate you all.
So I actually want to show you where we're all sitting right now, because I just created it. And, well, I didn't really create it. Sam did, and some AI robot out there in the universe did it.
Another one of these.
So you painted a pretty compelling picture for me, Mr. Reader, of the boardroom in Wonderland, a place where the Wonderland Hero Band would sit together around a table. Naturally, of course, absolutely, in the freaking sky. I'm gonna kill Zoom. Zoom is really bleeping with me today.
Yeah.
Boom.
Whoa. Need to get rid of that. Get rid of rectangles. Well, I think what shape would we have? I think we'd have
Yeah,
a different
no, we
shape.
can. We're gonna play with it. Right. Okay. What would the shape be?
I imagine like a circle, kind of like the King Arthur, like round table.
Round for sure.
For sure.
Okay.
Round or oval?
Round or what?
Oval.
Oval's
Oval.
nice. I like an oval. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'd love to see the all of your like alter egos in the seats.
Consider it
If-
done. You're giving the
Ah.
designer work, and I'm so excited about it. That's my creativity. Yes. Oh man. Oh man. Okay. Well, that's my homework. So my homework is to do that. Sam, your homework is to write a poem and be ready to perform it as the curiosity for us.
Okay.
Sabrina, sharing your book with us, and then I'll return the favor with mine. Paul, we're going to get together and do some world building and co-creating for the Provocateurs Poetry Place, wherever that is. And I imagine that'll probably be the thing that starts to bring to life this whole poetry thing that's happening in the Viraverse or seeding in the Viraverse, maybe as we're getting going. And it's going to turn into, oh, it's a garden, right? It's got to be a garden. It's a poetry garden or something, right? It's got to be in your element, right? Or no?
It's got to be somewhere outdoors for sure.
A meadow, yeah, like a meadow with like vibrant plants and flowers and tigers laying around hanging out listening, and oh yeah. All right. I digress. Sorry. This really got me excited, so I could go way deep into all of the world building stuff. So who knows though, maybe we'll bring that into the fold next week as a group, and rather than Paul and I getting together one-on-one, maybe we'll co-create a bit. Paul, what feels right for you? You like that?
Yeah, I like that. I like the co-creation part. Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, somebody bring a poem next week, whoever that may be, because we'll need one to inspire us a little
I
bit
have
as we
lots of
get into
poems.
co-creation.
I have lots of poems to bring.
Lots of poems. Perfect. Yeah, you'll always have one in your back
Even
pocket.
Paul as well. I'd love to read the poems that maybe you read for inspiration, like book club it kind of situation. If anyone's got a poem, like
Yeah.
poets that they love, I would love to
Yep.
read
Yep.
those.
Sam, I'll definitely share some nature literature artists that I love, like Edward Abbey, one of my favorite. So I'll definitely come with suggestions next week.
So
And
everyone put this stuff in the Wonder chat. Bam, 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 because we'll get Ella working to put it in the Library of Immersive Sustainability as well, and start to build that out. Also, book club, Viridescence Book Club is launching on Sunday. So stay tuned. I'm keeping it back because there's a group I need to share it with first, but we're going to invite this group to be a part of it as well. And it's a book about how to connect with people in really special ways. So stay tuned for that. One more thing I'm putting in the chat, I'll send it over to the Wonder chat as well, but there is a tool called Curable, a community called Curable, very science-based, led by doctors, and it's about the science of healing chronic pain through writing and other such practices, and it is really powerful. It certainly served me well along my journey, so something worth looking at as well. And Sam, that may give you a very scientific answer to why it is that the writing has been healing for us as well. So do I have anything else that I must show you? Yeah, that right there. Shadow strengthens. Probably my favorite element of our regenerative philosophy. What we did today strengthened, and what we've been doing has been strengthening, and this is just the beginning of this journey that we're traveling on now together. So thank you for everybody's vulnerability and trust, and head over to the Wonder chat a little bit later to find some action items that we'll share with the group as well, some things we can keep the conversation going. And holy shit, can I not wait for next week, because we're going to create the poetry garden, and we'll see you then. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Really enjoyed the session. Thank you.
Take care.